we're starting out to learn the guitar, it's really easy to get overwhelmed by the volume of material. And there's actually a kind of a nicer way of going at the idea of learning the guitar than just try to get everything under your fingertips at one moment. We can actually understand some ideas that we can apply over and over again. So today what we're going to look at is the C chord. We're not going to do anything fancy, we're just going to C chord. And we know the C chord. It's a nice, simple chord. And for a lot of us, we stop there and we'll often in the future be confused. How do people playing a C chord make it sound so good? And the idea is you start to understand what makes up a C chord, what other notes go well with the C chord, and what little things we can do to make it better. And that's all we're going to look at today. And so let's just consider the following. I've got to play a C chord. Maybe I've got to play it for a little while and I want to make it sound better. One of the easiest things you can do is to just lift off your first finger. And let's just listen to this. It's got a beautiful ethereal sound to it. And it's really easy to do. I just took my first finger off the chord. What we often miss is that the C chord can be played a lot of different ways. As long as there's a C in the bass, it's going to sound very C-like. There's ways around that, but basically to start out, we just want to play a C in the bass. And this is because a C chord is really only 3 notes. It's a triad. There's the C note, there's an E note, and then there's a G note. And as long as we have those in there, we're in a C triad. That's our C chord. The other strings are simply put to sound good with relationship to those 3 notes. And so all we did is we moved the C note to a B note, which is a major 7. So this is a C major 7 chord. And it sounds great and it's easy. So what we're going to do is just probe this idea a little bit and see what sort of things we can say to ourselves. For instance, what if I start with our C major 7, I make the C chord, and then I'm going to add the D note, and that's a C add 9. Why? Because I took the C and I raised it to the, if you think of that C as an octave up from this C, this would be then the 8th note in the key of C. This is the 9th note. So that's kind of a little bit of more information than we really wanted to do today, but you get the idea. We can find names for these chords, and this sounds nice. I can just start out. All that came from a C chord, the C triad. Oops. Didn't change. And so we're getting the idea really quick. It's not a lot of things we need to do. It's a lot of little things that can make our playing so much easier. The great part of doing this is it works your finger dexterity. You're starting to pick and choose what shapes and what things you want to emphasize in your chord. Now you might say, is that all we can do? Well, no. Every note can be played with in our chord. Right? So let's just go with the E note. We've got an E here as well. We can play with that a little bit. What if I doubled up and said, let's play each of those strings? Well, that G is the same as this G, okay, at least within an octave. And so having 2 Gs brightens the chord. So instead of just playing our C, if I want a brighter chord, I can just hit that bottom G instead of the E, and I've brightened my chord up. A really nice thing. Now, this does require us to do a little bit of thinking and sort of appreciate it, but this is what musicians do. They might be thinking of it from a sound they want, but somewhere in there you're grabbing a mechanical skill and you're applying that mechanical skill. Are we done yet? Well, no. We can come here and just say, we've got a C chord. What makes it a major chord is that E. So I can take that out, and that's on our D string. And so if I take it out, okay, then I'm going to be playing just the D. Okay? We can think of that as an add 9, but since it's in the lower register, we think of that as a sus2. fancy words, but let's just listen to it. I've got a C, and then I play the sus2. Oops, the sus2. When you play it, you don't want to have that extra E in there. Okay, we can go the other way and move up a note. So we're really just playing this combination. And so we start seeing there's little combinations we can do. The sus chords are really nice in that they're really not major or minor. They are sort of an in-between sound that works really well in a lot of different scenarios. So it's kind of fun to play with these things. Now, what is it we're really fooling around with here? Well, it's understanding the merit, the value, the function of the various notes. And so when I have a C note, the note right above, the G, that's the fifth. If I come down a string and back one, that's our third. I know that's a G note. I know that's a G note. I have my G, or my full triad when I put those three ideas together. Okay. There's another, I need to do that. That's another way of sounding out our C chord by putting the fifth at a lower value. Now that kind of changes the flavor of what we're looking at, but it opens our minds to some ideas. Wherever we find a note, we can find a third, down and across. Now we avoid the bottom two strings in this, but the idea is we get the idea that as soon as I find a C note, I can make a C chord. Well, there's a C note here. That means if I play this, I've got its third, and if I play this, I've got its fifth. So you might say, well, that doesn't quite sound right. Sure it does. What if I come down here? So by understanding the triads, in every place we find a C, we can do something interesting in a C-like sound. And this is really the idea, especially if you're just starting out on your guitar journey. Don't get overwhelmed by having to memorize or learn everything, but start learning the functional things that stay the same all the time. So for instance, if I said this is my C chord, or C triad, here's my G triad, there's my F triad. So those are the major chords, major triads in our C major scale. And we really now have a little better grip on it, as well as how to make things sound more interesting.